Two guests on this. First, Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, which works to expand black civic engagement. And before I even get in, good to see you, Cliff, as always, to the merits on this case. Politically, this is huge, right? I mean, I think it was your group that put out that, you know, depending on how this goes, Republicans could pick up a lot of House seats, right? How many?
Yeah, they can pick up literally up to 33 seats. Now, out of those 33, 19 are specifically connected to the Voting Rights Act. In other words, that you have some seats that exist in some states that are, Missouri is a great example, right? With the gerrymandering, the mid-decade gerrymandering that they just did, they intentionally went after the Kansas City seat, because that seat, although it's been in a black representative for decades, it's not actually a Voting Rights Act protected seat. They did not go after the St. Louis seat, the seat that Cori Bush used to hold. Why did they not go after it? Because that one is actually a Voting Rights Act protected seat. And so what you would see is that you would, at a minimum, you would see those 19 seats that are protected specifically by the Voting Rights Act, right, those will be gone, you know, and I'm saying these are 19 seats in the red states that would be so inclined, like a Missouri, like a Texas, right, like a Indiana, to go after those seats. Those seats would essentially be gone because there'd be no reason for them to not gerrymander them, because we'd have no more Voting Rights Act. That's what's at stake. The Republican Party would, in addition to eliminating the voices of black voters and black representation, would basically be able to establish one-party rule for decades, if not generations.
So this idea of Democrats taking back the House would be next to impossible if that analysis is right and things go in one way. I want to talk about the merits now of the case for a moment with you. So the conservative argument essentially here, as I understand it, is race should not be considered at all when you're drawing these electoral districts. So, you know, even if you're trying to remedy past discrimination, no, or, you're not thinking about race. As a matter of fact, here's the Trump administration lawyer talking about the new maps as a reverse partisan gerrymander. Listen.
The reason why Section 2, as it's being construed in Jingles, is a problem is it's saying that you have to create a district for black Democrats that you would never create for white Democrats in a Republican state. It's essentially being used as a reverse partisan gerrymander on purely racial grounds, and that is a constitutional problem.
It's unconstitutional, they argue. That's their argument. What's yours?
Yeah, you know, in making that argument, they're looking at the 14th Amendment, right, and equal protection. And, you know, it's important that we understand what the 14th Amendment and by extension the 15th Amendment, which guarantee the right to vote, should not be abridged, what their purpose was and where they came from. In a community, you know, a lot of times when somebody's got like a very specific job or a very specific role and they fail to do that role, one of the things that you hear us say is, look, you had one job. Right? You had one job and you failed to do it. The 14th and 15th Amendments essentially had one job, right? These are the Reconstruction Amendments, whose one job was to protect the rights of the formerly enslaved black folks, right? And so it's really insidious to see this court, and especially when you consider who on the court is making these arguments, because a lot of these people, like an Alito, like a Thomas, they consider themselves original intenters, right? They they believe that we need to look at the original intent of the Constitution. There is no way that you can get around looking at the original intent of the 14th and 15th Amendments was to protect the voting rights of the black community. It is insidious, and the textbook hypocrisy to then try to use that same 14th Amendment to say, no, we can't use it in order to correct these racial wrongs.
Okay, Cliff, as always, thank you. Cliff Albright, I want to turn to